Check our website, and thank you for staying tuned with us. We got a fascinating half hour coming up with Sylvie Hache. Nice to see you.
Pleasure.
And as I mentioned about half an hour ago now, that Sylvie has a fascinating story. It's going to be controversial. I'm sure not everybody will agree with what you express here, but I'm going to set it up and just say that for 13 years you lived a lesbian lifestyle.
Yes.
And today, your life is altogether different.
Absolutely.
So that kind of tells you where we're going to go with this. And first of all, I want to say I respect that you're willing to come and talk about this, because it could be something that you might shy away to talk about just because it is controversial. And it's a political issue, it's a moral issue, it's on every side of it. You have so many opinions. Let me just go right to it. How did you become a lesbian, or when did you know that you were a lesbian, or that you felt that you were? Just start wherever you want in that story.
Well, I just kind of walked right into that world, accidentally. It was after my common-law husband violently assaulted me, and I basically became afraid of men. So I found a pamphlet in a local library that said women's nightclub, and I was curious. So I just walked in, and it was a lesbian nightclub. And from that moment on, I was just drawn into that world. I was compelled. It almost felt like a drug. I just wanted to learn more about it. So,
was it that you felt safe, accepted?
Yes.
How would you describe it?
Absolutely, I did feel safe. And I did feel accepted. The first time that I walked in, I didn't realize it was a gay club, but I did feel safe just seeing a sea full of women and not many men around, and I just felt safe. But then I started recognizing that they were dancing in bizarre sort of ways, but it was fascinating to me. So I think I was just drawn in.
Now, at this point in your life, did you have any concept of God or Jesus Christ or church, or were these things that were a part of your life?
Yes, I did grow up with a religious background, and I knew about God, but I definitely didn't have a relationship with him. Mm-hmm. And I knew about Jesus, but to me, Jesus was the man who died on a cross, and that was as close as I felt to him.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So anything you'd heard in church wasn't really much a part of your thinking when you went into this club?
No.
Now, as you did this, so then you had been married, your common-law husband, and he had abused you. And so, are there many women that you think have a similar story to yours?
I do. Having been in the lifestyle for 13 years, I discovered all kinds of other people's stories that wasn't necessarily an abuse, but well, not an abuse from an ex-husband, for instance, but an abuse of sorts, whether a parental abuse or some other form of relational abuse of sorts. But I did find that habitually there was something that had triggered that.
Mm-hmm. Now, some people will say, well, I was at a certain age when I was 8 or 10 or 14, they'll say, I felt an attraction to the same gender. Now, you didn't have anything like that, so this was something that, it was the abuse that triggered it? Or had you had that kind of, was it something you connected with, something that you'd thought about previous?
Well, a little bit of both. I didn't look into it as a teenager or a young adult. That was the part about God that I believed that it was the forbidden fruit and you're not supposed to go that way. So I didn't go that way. So as a teenager, I remember being attracted to women, finding women attractive, but I never went any further than that. But I point this out because when I did start diving into the homosexual lifestyle, I recalled how I felt as a teenager. I recalled noticing pretty women, and then it justified within myself that quite possibly I was gay all along.
So you kind of that's what I'm saying. So you kind of
exactly.
you had to
Yes.
interpret. We all try to interpret
Exactly.
our life and interpret reality as we see it. So you interpreted it that way, that,
Yes.
okay, I'm connecting with something that you think others are doing that, because you hear people say, you know, I was born this way. So
Yes.
do you think, again, that's a typical?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then just the discovery. I mean, I honestly felt that I was discovering that I was gay, because when I got introduced to this lifestyle, then all of a sudden I met a group of lesbian women and we would start hanging out. I mean, I go into a little bit more detail within the book, but just the journey, and they just really kind of held my hand through the process, and they helped me to come out and to feel comfortable to come out. And to them, their help for me was just a help of helping me to be comfortable with this new world, this new discovery of
So
who I
you felt
truly
you were
was.
discovering yourself.
Absolutely.
You were discovering the core of who you really are.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I had no doubt whatsoever.
And I mean, that's something in every human being. You want to really know, understand yourself. That's a
Correct.
natural thing and all. Now, and by the way, I should hold up your book. You can see our guest coordinator has done quite a job here. I have enough questions, I think, to keep going for a couple of hours here, you know. And maybe if our producer has a copy of your book, there it is, and your website, there it is as well, yes, sylviahache.com, all right? So people can order your book there. And so talk a little bit more. What were the consequences? So you kind of left one lifestyle, you felt you were connecting with your true self, if I can say like that, and for 13 years you embraced that. So what did it bring you? What happened? Positives and negatives, because everything will have some positives and negatives. You felt accepted, so that was a positive. You felt true friendship, that's a positive. But what were some of the consequences? Maybe share a little bit more on.
Sure, absolutely. I'd like to just share that I did dive really deeply into this lifestyle, in that I did even meet a woman and we had a civil marriage. Oh. So we were together for a total of 4 years, 2 before the marriage, and then our marriage only lasted 2 years.
Now when you say civil marriage, that was here in Ontario, so homosexual marriages, was that after homosexual marriages were approved?
This was in 2000. So it was prior to...
Yeah, because that came a couple of years later.
It did. And at the time, we actually signed legal documentation, legal marriage certificates, in anticipation that when it would become legalized, the pastor would just submit those documents, and then we would all be legal.
So did you go through kind of a church? Though it
Oh,
wasn't
yes,
official. You went through a church wedding. Yeah.
Actually, that was a very, very important part of my journey. When you asked me earlier if I believed in God, yes, absolutely, I did, and there was an importance with God in my life. So before I could altogether commit to this gay lifestyle, I needed to make sure that God approved of it, and that I wasn't going to go to hell.
And obviously the minister that conducted the ceremony would have discussed it with you and given their point of view on it.
Well, exactly. I mean, at first, I actually walked into a Catholic church and I spoke to a priest and I said, will I go to hell if I am gay? And he said, he just kind of sideswiped a little, and then he gave a truthful answer. He said, if you live this lifestyle, you will not inherit the kingdom of God. And I thought, I have no idea what that means. And I thought, well, he didn't tell me I would go to hell, so good to go. And
so you had a fear of hell, obviously.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, because I think, I honestly believe a lot of gay people have been told throughout the years, don't be gay or you'll end up in hell. And so that was the only question.
Because I hear that question a lot. So
Exactly.
that's what I'm saying. It seems to be like almost a straight line.
Exactly.
Someone says, I'm gay, do I go to hell?
Exactly.
You know? I'm like, how do you, it seems to be, I've heard that question before.
So when this priest didn't tell me I would go to hell, I thought, good enough. And then I think the following Sunday, I actually walked into a gay church, which coincidentally, I had received a business card that was flung my way when I went to my very first gay pride parade. And it was a float with a pastor in full attire, and the business card got flung in my direction. I picked it up and looked at it, and the friends I was with, one of them said, "What do you have there?" And then I showed her, and she said, "See, even God wants you to be gay." So I kind of tucked it in my purse, and then when I had that confirmation from the priest, I just thought, okay, I'm going to walk into the gay church. So from that point on, this gay church just told me everything I wanted to hear, that God doesn't make mistakes, that He created us all perfectly the way that He wanted us to be, and that God accepts all people, homosexuals included. So that's when I went full-fledged into this lifestyle, feeling completely assured.
Because you felt religion, the Christian or some form of Christian religion, condoned what you were doing, yeah?
Exactly.
All right, so let's go back to my question on the consequences there. I'm glad you added all that, because it gives us an understanding of the depth of your commitment to this,
So the question was, what happened out of it? Well, within my actual relationship with my wife, because we did refer to ourselves as wife and wife, things just habitually went wrong in our marriage. And it wasn't the marriage itself, it was everything else around it. It was the fact that we had purchased a beautiful house, but it was very expensive, and so we both needed to work. And for the life of, I don't understand why, but I could not get a job and keep a job. I mean, and I've had jobs in the past, and I am educated, but
and you have your own business now.
Exactly. But no matter what I tried to do, it was just unsuccessful at every corner. So this went on, and to add on top of that too, there was added stress from other areas of my life, just one thing added on to another, and I believe that part of the reason why we did separate was because of all the stresses in our life. So those were issues that had come up, and I thought, well, okay, I'll dust myself off and just move forward. So after we had separated, I thought, well, I'll start up a new business, and I tried to do that, but that failed, and everything I tried to do, whether it was financially or relationally or physically, I mean, every avenue of my life was affected and just kept going wrong, and I couldn't figure it out. So what I ended up realizing is, what ended up happening was I had lost the business that I discuss in here, which was a health business, and I was about to move into my car. I had lost everything, my savings, my children, my home, everything. And that's when a Christian family came to invite me to live with them. And that's where my things started to shift.
So they reached out in love to you,
Yes.
accepting you.
Yes.
I suppose they didn't come at you preaching or waving a Bible. They came out and just related in kindness to you.
Yes.
And so how did you get to see Jesus in a different view? I mean, what encounter did you have with the Lord, and what changes happened there?
Okay, what happened there is that, as you pointed out, they were not preachy at all. They didn't walk around with the Bible tucked under their arm all day long. But what I found is that I just witnessed what their life was like. They lived in peace, and a family of 5, husband, wife, 3 kids, and their life was smooth. And even while I lived with them, they invited me to live with them to kind of get back on my feet. And I tried. I kept trying to get a good job so that I could financially, pay first and last month's rent. I mean, I'm just getting, and I couldn't. As soon as I tried to move one step forward, it felt like I would fall 2 steps back. So I kept trying to move, to straighten out my life. Well, not in that respect, but just get everything in order so that I could move forward. And it just kept failing. So after a year of living with them, I guess I had had enough. I mean, at one point I slipped and I fell and I tore all the ligaments in my shoulder, and then I ended up tearing the ligaments in my foot, so I needed to use crutches, but that would re-injure the shoulder, and I lost my job because of it, and it was a nightmare.
There wasn't any great blessing on your life.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
So I share this because I finally, it's as though I was completely broken with no other way to go, and I finally sat down one day just in their living room and I said, "Can I ask you a few questions?" And the husband just, he just sat there and just answered me. And I started asking, and I started by saying, "I've been here for a year. I've witnessed your family go through smoothly, whereas my life things keep happening that keep going wrong time and time again." And I wanted to know what is the difference, because we both lived in the same house, we both ate the same food, we both were in the same surroundings. Why was my life always messing up and theirs wasn't? And they actually said to me, they said, "Well, first of all, we don't follow our feelings or let them determine our decisions in life. Secondly, we ensure that we're not breaking any divine laws or principles along the way. And we just make right choices." And those were the three answers they gave me. And I thought, good heavens, I've only ever followed my feelings my entire life. How do you not follow your feelings to make decisions? It didn't even make sense. And then when they talked about divine laws, I thought, it kind of sounds super religious to me. But I was intrigued because I had witnessed their life, how smooth it was. And then when they said, "Do what's right," I thought, I need to understand what this family has because I want what they have. So how do I get what they have? And I realized then the only way I could receive what they had was to know what they knew. So we just got into a really lengthy conversation. And that's when all these questions and answers came out. And that is what changed my life. And that's what I am sharing in this book, is just that conversation.
Let's go to a little clip right now about the book, and then we're going to follow up with some more
Sure.
questions. Let's roll with that.
I journeyed into the world of homosexuality, overcoming struggles of coming out and society's disapproval. Until struggles came I could not overcome. My life deteriorated into a hellish merry-go-round. I came face to face with an unseen reality I was not expecting to find, leading me to seek the truth and uncover answers to tough questions. Do we have free will to live however we choose? Does God accept homosexuality? Was I born like this? Was I born like this? Then I discovered the truth. And that truth changed my life.
I encourage you to get a hold of this book, and you have the information at the bottom of the screen there at the website where you can order it. And it's not people who have gone through a similar story to yours, Sylvie, are not always willing to share it. And I think you are helping others by sharing it. Now, you refer to, I've looked through your book here, as I said, our guest coordinator has done a good job of putting all kinds of little stickies here in your book, the free will.
Yes.
And I heard you mention it there on the video clip again. what about the free will? How does the free will influence us? Share what your experience is on that.
Sure, absolutely. When I first sat down and I was having this multitude of questions in this conversation, one of my very first questions to him when he was talking about choices and what have you, I said I thought I had the free will to live my life however I want. And he said, absolutely. And I said, well, then if I have free will, why can't I live a gay lifestyle? He said, because there are consequences. And then he shared with me, he said, well, you have the free will to drink water or vodka in equal measure, but one will save your life, the other will kill.
Yeah, so you have the free will.
You do have the free will. And so then I got into a bunch of questions about free will. I said, well, then what is free will for? And he just posed a barrage of questions. He said, do you believe that we have free will to do what we want when we want? Everybody has free will. If that's the case, then how could we all have free will and express our free will equally and at our own leisure and have the world run smoothly? And he posed so many questions that it stumped me. And finally, I said, well, if we don't have free will to do what we want when we want, then what's free will for? He said it's to make the right choice instead of the wrong one. And then he added, he said, now you have the free will to choose to believe what I say or not. And I thought, wow, not much of a sales guy giving a pitch like that after this huge spiel. But then I realized that's a very concept and premise of free will. We do have the free will to believe what we want to believe. However, having said all this, truth prevails. And this book actually talks about truth. It is the truth that I discovered that changed my life.
Give a little bit of that. What is the truth that changed your life? Give a little bit of that.
Well, I think that, truth, for instance, there is an ultimate truth to everything. It is not, for instance, my personal opinion that water is healthy for a human. Let me repeat, it's not my personal opinion that water is healthy for humans. Mm-hmm. It happens to be the truth, and I happen to believe it, but it is the absolute truth. And so there is an absolute truth to everything that we do or experience in life. And with respect to this, I discovered the truth about what is right or what is not right with respect to living a non-straight lifestyle. Mm-hmm.
So how did you change then out of the lesbian lifestyle? What caused the change? Was it just like that, or was it, what happened? Was it a gradual change? Or?
During this conversation that I had with this family that particular night, I asked him, I said, how do I stop this mess going on in my life? And he actually said, make different lifestyle choices. And I thought, how? How does that affect me, or how could making a different lifestyle choice change my life? And he actually pointed out that what had been happening in my life is that my life had been cursed. And I didn't understand what that meant. I thought being cursed, I understood it as, maybe someone was using foul language or swearing, but that's not what cursed is. Cursed means that you have bad luck, for lack of a better term. So my life was plagued with bad luck, and the only way that I could change it and receive a blessed life instead of a cursed one was to stop being gay. So when he mentioned that to me, I actually took it as a challenge. I took it as a dare. I said, I don't believe you. I don't believe that if I just stop being gay that my life will turn around. And I thought, I have nothing to lose right now. I was already separated from my wife and divorced, I guess, technically. And so I just stopped and made the decision within myself to just stop.
Did God help you in any way doing this?
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely.
What helped did God? Because You made the choice, so could you have made it without God?
No.
Why not?
Because I had lived that lifestyle for so long that it was everything that I knew about myself. It was the places I would go, the people I would hang out with, it was the decisions and choices I would make. It was everything about me, and the only way that I could stop was with God's help. I turned it over to Him.
So how did God help you?
He took away the desire, ultimately.
Okay. Well, praise God for that. That's wonderful. I appreciate you sharing your story. And again, I recommend this book, Insight. Was I Born Like This? Let's get a close-up of it again there, Megan. And I appreciate you coming to share so openly about it.
Thank you.
And about the power of choice.